Hey, welcome, moms. It is so, so nice to be back again and to be able to sit and visit for a while with my friends. So I'm excited to see where today goes, what our topics end up being. I love that. I love that we can just bring the things that we're learning about and things that have happened and things we've thought about it and have a really beautiful discussion here. So I'm excited to see what comes. So first off, just checking in last month, we talked about a lot of different things, wondering if anybody has anything to share that's a follow-up from our past discussions, because we love to do that. Just as a reminder that we can be talking about these things anytime. We don't have to stick to the topics of the rotation or any of that. It can be anything at all. Last month we were talking about storytelling. And I love that. That's one of my favorite months. But we tell stories all the time. So that never, ever goes away. None of these topics really go away, do they? Hopefully, we keep them as a part of our everyday life and share them with others. So, and have any of you had experiences sharing with other moms, maybe helping or I know somebody has. That was a very direct question to the person who knows who I'm talking about. So, well, Miss Texas.
Hey, yes. So I just I put my name on the Mothers of Influence group. Most of you guys probably know that on the map to say I'm a group of one, but come join me. And the sweet lady reached out to me before, and right after we did that, and we met at the park and got together, and now we're gonna have our first meeting. So I was thinking I need to invite some other ladies, and I just felt like um I would get like I feel like I got impressions to invite people like you need to talk to her and invite her, and I was like okay, and people that I hadn't ever considered or whatever, I just met them and I was like I need to invite them, and that happened. I've invited a few different people, and this one lady, she posted on our that I'm in this like homeschooling North Austin homeschooling group, um and like it's an LDS group, but anyways, she posted on there, she's like I'm new to the area, I just moved from Utah, and I'm homeschooling, and she's like 3 little kids, and she's like I'm trying to meet people and stuff. Do you know any groups or whatever? And so I said to myself, she has little kids and mine are all kind of older, and I don't know, maybe I wanted to reach out to her, but I was like it's like what do we have. And then I'm like I should invite her to my group, and so I just put a little thing on there if you want to know more, and she um messaged me back and was like, yes, please let me know about this. And so I told her about it, and she's like, it's a Mothers of Influence group, and we're studying about well-educated heart. And she was like, I just learned about well-educated heart, and this is so cool because I was just so drawn to it and wanted to know more about it. And I was like, how crazy is that? And it was just, I mean, like so random. I don't know her, and but I just looked at her profile picture and she was so cute. And I was like, oh. Anyway, so she started messaging me and asking me questions, and she was like, is this worth it? Like after the end of the day, I'm so tired and I've been so overwhelmed with people touching me and I'm just like tired. Like, is this really worth all of it? And I was like, oh, sweetheart, I would just give you a big hug if I could. And I just said, it is worth it. I totally understand how you're feeling. Like, some days I still feel that way. But we were able to just like make a connection. It was so sweet. And she was like, thanks so much for like, I feel like you're just like being an angel to me. I don't even know you, but I just love you. And I was like, I love you too. And I don't know. Like, it's so funny. Like, it's just like this group, like how I happened into this group. And I felt like connecting with her was just not an accident. And I was just, she was so sweet. And I was like, you should come to our Mothers of Influence group online too, because I think that might be helpful, and just you'll feel that support and strength too. And so she said that they were out and about today, but she might be able to hop on and listen. So I hope she comes. But if not, it's so cool. Like Heavenly Father is just, just puts people in our path, and I don't know, it's just cool. So that was some fun, sweet experience I had sharing about Well-Educated Heart and just trying to make those connections. I think that's Lori talked about that and the Teach Our Own Hearts thing, and I've just been hearing that like mentioned and said a lot, like the power of connection is it's so powerful because Satan wants us to feel alone and to be alone. And the more that we connect with people and are just real,
Yep.
this is me, this is who I am, and I'm just trying to love people, and you do that, and like it's so powerful. That's how we fight the influence of Satan, right? And so I just felt that a lot recently, just that power of connection. That's all I have.
That is not all you have, but for now, I know you. I love that. And yes, that's so true. And that idea of connection has been on my mind so much lately too. And then that mothers of influence, the grandmothers of influence, has been the topic of conversation, is connection, connection, connection. How important it is that we help women to see that connection is important. I know you're busy. I know that it doesn't seem like you have time for it, but that connection is everything. It makes such a big difference, even for the moms that are on here and not saying anything, for the moms that are watching the videos and never ever get to even come and be here in person. I get messages from them talking about, just the power that these connections have been to them, and for them, I mean, and it's not even in person. That's just crazy. So imagine what in-person connections are going to do for you as we start, branching out, and or just not leaving here, but being brave enough to start making those connections with the person that's close enough to touch, right? Oh, just makes a difference. I know, and I won't make her say anything unless she wants to, but I know my sweet friend who's on here who hasn't said much, but even with this group and with the Marco Polo groups, Melissa says that it has made such a big difference in her life. Just like if there's a time where she's feeling that pressure, feeling that negativity from Satan, because he really does want to hold us down and make us feel like we're alone. She shared with me the other day that she'll just go to Marco Polo and listen to some of you ladies sharing some of the things that you share, and that'll help her. She feels like, oh, okay, there are my friends. Those, and it makes a difference. Yes, Melissa.
Yeah, this group and the Marco Polo group has really helped me a lot. And if I would have had this group a long time ago when my kids were young, I really, really needed something like that about 10 years ago. I'm a single mom, and I had 3 kids that were like 3, 5, and 7, and I didn't have any family support, and I was just completely alone in my apartment with my kids, and it would get really, really overwhelming, and it was just really difficult. And so, but now my kids are grown up, and they're teenagers and they're off at school, but I'm home alone all day, and it does get it does get very lonely, and I've just learned so much from everyone in this group, and it's just really helped me a lot to grow as a person. So I'm very, very thankful for it. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to just be in my apartment alone right now and not have all of you ladies. So I'm thankful for this.
Thank you for sharing, Melissa. I appreciate that. And I'm so, so happy that we have each other. It is such a blessing. And especially, we kind of forget because we get used to the fact that we have this. We have this group, we have our friends now, and it's normal for us. And we kind of forget what it was like to not have that. And then you talk to a mom who doesn't and who's feeling lost, and it kind of puts things into perspective for you, and you realize, oh, that's right. I am so blessed to have this connection. Lindsay Watkins, were you going to share something, sweetie? Okay, I'm glad you're on camera. I love to see my friends. Anybody else have something they want to share about that? Yeah, Laura.
I
Okay,
have
there was movement in that part of my screen. Somebody down there wanted to talk.
so I've actually been thinking a lot about Linnell and how she lost her aunt a couple weeks. And this morning I had the thought that I should share this book with her. And I thought that's silly. The sharing something that my aunt who's passed away made, what would that do for her? But as I thought about it some more, I thought about, and that made me think of us and so I want to share the ending of it with you guys. So it's called The Bossy Boulder, and it's drawn and written by my aunt, Monica Estel. And it's about this boulder that's on top of a mountain. Can you see him up there? And he thinks he's the top of the world, and he's bossy, and he tries to tell everything what to do, tries to tell the sun to go down at night and the moon to come up during the day, and to tell the trees to stop growing leaves and the birds to stop singing. And he just thinks he's so bossy. And then time and change work on him and eventually push him off the top of the mountain, and he gets mad at them, and he's bossy. Well, eventually he becomes a tiny grain of sand, and he's in the bottom of a river, and he thinks everything's just lovely and great. He doesn't even realize he's not bossing things around anymore, trying to tell people what to do, and he's just enjoying living. And then he comes up on the river, and the wind picks him up and puts him, it's a long story, maybe I'll read it in the Marco Polo, but this part. So he ends up on the top of a mountain. So I'll start right here. Then down again, down, down, they set the tiny grain of sand down very gently, way up high on top of the mountain. The grain of sand did not know he was so high up. There was sand there, and that was all he needed to make him happy. He knew he was where he belonged. One day, as he was peacefully resting in his new place, he heard a tiny voice. "What's that, Mommy?" A tiny cloud was pointing in his direction. Chuckling, the mother cloud said to her little one, "Ask it what it is, dear." "What are you?" asked the baby cloud in his tiny voice. The grain of sand nervously tried to think how he should answer, but he found himself speaking in unison. Speaking in unison with all the other grains of sand. "I am a mountain," the whole mountain said. And so it is. Okay, just a second. Sorry, he's got to go potty. And so it was that while it seemed that the boulder was growing smaller and smaller, he was really becoming greater than he had ever been before. And I love that because I feel like the work that we are doing helps us to become greater than we could. I have something else to share, but give me just a second.
Any thoughts about that? That is beautiful. Sarah?
I want to look on Amazon and see if I can find that picture book. That's so sweet.
Is that so sweet? Her aunt wrote and illustrated it. So I wonder, how she did that and where copies are. I love that. It's a beautiful thing to remember. That would be wonderful to put. Yeah, thanks, Lindsay Watkins. We'll do that. Have her share information about it if it's something we can get a hold of. Do you know, Lindsay? Are you familiar with that book? Yeah, Lindsay Watkins, you want to share? I'd love to.
So I had an experience yesterday. I've been going back through all of the Brooke Snow podcasts. I just started at the very beginning. And I don't even remember what number it was. I think 9 or 10. It was the Bless 7 People with What You Really Want. And she had said, think of something that you really want. Like in her case, she was talking about, this is when she was just releasing her book. And she's like, I really want my book to do well. So she thought of 7 other authors, and she kind of just put her feelings out there in prayer and said, I hope that so-and-so and so-and-so, I hope that their books do really well. And I hope that they reach a lot of people. And then in turn, hers started selling, started getting more. And so I thought about that yesterday. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to try it just to see what happens. And this was in the morning. And I had just thought, struggle with confidence and struggle with just knowing that I'm who the Lord made me to be, And so I said, you know what, that's what I want. And so I named off 7 people in my head and said, this is who I want to have this blessing. And then I ran to the grocery store. And as I was walking out, I still had this churning through my mind. And this lady walked in. I thought, man, I really like her skirt. She wears it really well. And she wasn't super thin or fit or anything. But it just looks so good on her. And you know how sometimes when I have body image issues where I'm like, this would look good if I was 50 pounds lighter or whatever. And she was wearing this so well. And I thought, that looks so good on her. Well, I'm just walking through the store and she walked too fast where I couldn't catch up to her because, I'm 50 pounds heavier than I should be. So she, I just went on my little shopping spree and some lady stops me. She goes, I love your purse. I thought, well, that's weird. So I get to the checkout. And
that's why we're all afraid of saying those things,
right. So these 2 other cashier ladies just start a conversation. They're like, oh, I love doing this. And oh, I love when we make stuff with this. And they just start talking and they're like, oh, I bet you make such a good recipe with this. And I'm thinking, it's nothing really. Anyway, so then I just walk out the door and this lady pulls up in her vehicle and stops and rolls her window down. And she's like, I love your shirt. I thought, how in the world? I'm like, what voodoo is this? It's just, what is going on? And I just got in the car and I just started laughing. And I'm like, what in the world just happened to me? And so I thought, that's exactly how it works. And then her quote in her podcast was, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I just loved that because it was true, because I wasn't thinking, oh, I hope I go in this grocery store and I get a whole bunch of compliments so that really boosts my confidence. That's not what I was thinking. I was praying for all of these other people to get that blessing. And it was just funny that it happened within minutes of all of this going on. And my son, I told them about it and he's like, okay, I'm going to bless everybody with $1 million. Like, make sure you include me. So it just was funny, but so that was my experience yesterday. And I thought of all of you, how it's, again, a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's what Well-Educated Heart is doing. We're not competing. We're all on the same team. We're trying to lift one another. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that reminder. We're not competing. We've never been competing, but hasn't that been what happened to women? We got into this place where it's been so much competition and not the lifting and working together. I love that, Lindsay. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's a really cool concept too. You opened it up and all those things happened. I think that's so funny. I can just imagine you just being really quiet, like, what is going on here? But I love it. Okay. Anybody else thoughts? Or Laura, do you want to share more? We found the book on Amazon too. So we've already, Melanie found it. Lindsay got the link, shared the link. So we're all good.
She also sent me this card. So she passed away about a year ago from cancer. And she was my dad's youngest sister and never had any children, but she had over 200 nieces and nephews. Big family. But before she died, she made a point of sending a card to everybody and with a nice letter of all the things that she knew about us. But I love this card. Can you see it very good? It's a ladybug ironing her wings.
Oh, cute.
And it says, take time to take care of yourself. But I love that too. But okay, so this morning, after I had thought that, I went to the Well-Educated Heart philosophy book and just happened to turn to page 21. And so I thought about the boulder and how, what we're doing. And then Heavenly Father gave me this to read, a special dream. It says, last night I had a dream, and in my dream, I heard the voice of the Lord booming with such authority, expectancy, and destiny. He said, I am raising up a company of women with fire in their bellies. Followed straight after that, I heard the Lord decreeing Isaiah 61. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. A new day is upon women right now. He is raising up women now who know him. Modern day Esthers, Deborahs, Marys to stand with passion and conviction on their platform of influence. This large company of women he is raising up who know and who are about to meet new doors of influence in their lives. Release his fire. I saw a tidal wave of creativity crashing on women in this season. Chains that have held many women down from knowing who they are and what they were created to do and how to express that creativity of heaven. It's being broken. God is awakening creativity in women. Watch and see women who know him being positioned in greater positions of influence and in areas of creativity to begin to lead the world in the creativity of heaven. It is an exciting time. Do you feel it? I do. Love how Lindsay was just talking about, we don't feel competent enough to do this work, but look at the messages that he's sending us and the things that we can accomplish together as women in spreading the creativity of heaven as we spread Well-Educated Heart. So I love that.
I loved it so much. Can you share that resource, Laura, when you get a sec? On this whole idea of not feeling competent enough, we don't feel like we are qualified. I watched that documentary on Joan of Arc, for last month, or I don't even know when, maybe it was the month before, but I watched that. It was so good. It was so beautifully done. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it yet. But then I told you I started reading the book, and I started listening to it. I told you I found it at my library, but it's on Audible, and anyway, but it's this book here. So it's Mark Twain, Personal Recollections of Joan of Arc, and it's actually one of her friends, one of the friends from her youth that ended up being her page. Anyway, Mark Twain loves her, and the book is on YouTube, Ida, so you can listen to the book on YouTube. Wonderful. So I recommend it. It's beautiful, and she was a young girl, completely uneducated. She had zero experience for any of the things that she did, aside from listening and following. And it is so incredibly moving to see what the Lord can do with a very meek and lowly, humble person. So those kinds of stories are good reminders for us about we don't have to be anything other than willing to be an instrument in his hands. That's the only thing we need to be willing to do. So I love that reminder. Thank you, Laura, for sharing that. That's so beautiful. Melanie, are you leaving your place to have a quiet place to talk? No, okay, just changing places.
All right, my computer crashed, so I had to switch to my phone.
Okay, just checking. Okay, and Daisy, it's so good to have you back. Some of us, I was able to share the link to Daisy's YouTube channel. Have you guys, I don't know if you've all seen it, but Daisy could do a better job, but she may be at work, I'm not sure.
Oh, no, I'm here. Let's see. Well, so I can share the link, but I just thought I had some time this afternoon. Usually I'm busy at Fridays at noon, but I was like, I'm gonna pop in. It's been too long. Um, but yeah, I've missed you ladies. And I just wanted to say I read the Personal Recollections of Joan of Arc by Mark Twain
Yeah.
in 2020. And it was just like, it was a really, really good book. And you could definitely feel Mark Twain's like his passion for the subject. And I think that it's wonderful to read books written by authors who love what they're writing about. You can definitely feel a difference. So I would highly recommend it too. It was a really, really beautiful story. And Joan is very inspirational.
She is. I loved that. And I love that you read that too. Yeah, it's inspiring and I recommend it, even if you can just get parts of it. But get parts of that into your heart. It is very inspiring. And Daisy, do you have a minute to tell us a little bit about your channel?
Oh yeah. So I kind of just made this YouTube channel. It's nothing fancy. I just read stories, little stories, and post them to YouTube. And they have been so far just elementary age stories. I'm hoping to maybe one day work up the confidence to record like entire books. But right now I am working on the book Nature Myths and Stories by Flora J. Cook. And eventually that will be in its entirety on my little YouTube. But they're just tiny little videos with me reading stories. I'm not a professional.
But
I
it's
try to make
lovely. It really is. And she posts a picture of the bird, like there'll be a story about a bird, and she'll post a picture of the bird. And so you can look at that picture of the bird while you're listening to Daisy's sweet voice as she's reading the stories. And I love it. And yes, Lindsay Watkins, it's Daisy. It's Daisy's voice sharing that. I loved it. I think Lindsay and I, Bunting and I have already listened to all of the ones that are posted. So Daisy, you got to get busy. You got to post more so we have more to listen to.
Well, this morning I posted Crossing the Rubicon by James Baldwin. So that should be there, hopefully. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And these are, moms, you definitely can have your children listen to these stories, but these are for us. They are really, that it really makes a difference when you add these things to your life. It makes you feel different. And I love that. Okay, other thoughts? Other topics? Ida?
I had started reading in the imagination book from the Mother's Learning Library. And I read this first, it was just this morning, and I loved it so much. So I just want to share a little bit from that. The dreamers, they are the architects of greatness. Their vision lies within their souls. They never see the mirages of fact, but peer beyond the veils and mists of doubt and pierce the walls of unborn time. The world has accoladed them with jeer and sneer and jibe, for worlds are made of little men who take but never give, who share but never spare, who cheer a grudge and grudge a cheer. Wherefore, the paths of progress have been sobs of blood dropped from their broken hearts. And then it goes on, grief only streaks their hair with silver, but has never grayed their hopes. Through all the ages, they have heard the voice of destiny call to them from the unknown vasts. They dare uncharted seas, for they are makers of the charts. With only cloth of courage at their masts, and with no compass save their dreams, they sail away undaunted for the far blind shores. And then it goes on, what would you have of fancy or of fact if hands were all with which men had to build? And then the last part, they are the chosen few, the blazers of the way, who never wear doubt's bandage on their eyes, who starve and chill and hurt, but hold to courage and to hope, because they know that there is always proof of truth for them who try, that only cowardice and lack of faith can keep the seeker from his chosen goal. But if his heart be strong, and if he dream enough and dream it hard enough, he can attain, no matter where men failed before. Walls crumble and the empires fall. The tidal wave sweeps from the sea and tears a fortress from its rocks. The rotting nations drop from off time's bow, and only things the dreamers make live on. They are the eternal conquerors. Their vessels are the years. You probably hear lots of noise in the background, but I just love that because I feel like often as mothers, we have to be dreamers, right? We have to be like that because we're doing things every day and it's hard to see the end from the beginning. And sometimes people will tell us what we're doing is a waste of our time or it's too hard. Why don't you just do this or that? It's so much easier. And we just keep on and we dream on and we look towards our goal and we don't fail even if other people have failed. We hold on to hope. And I just loved reading that today. That's my other thought.
One of your other thoughts, I hope. Just one. I love that. I love that imagination book. And in fact, I've been carrying it around with me and reading little snippets, and I couldn't find it this morning. I don't know where the last place I put it down was. So I'm so glad you shared that, because from the beginning, the very beginning of that book, all the way through to the end, there are gems. It's just beautiful. So that's the imagination book in the Mother's University Library, and it's free online, like all of that stuff. You can buy it to have it in your home if you want that, but if you just want to have access to it, you can read it online. I love that. Other thoughts about imagination? Did you realize how important imagination was, before all of this learning that you've done to nurture your heart and learn about it? It's so incredibly important. I love the reminder that, and I know moms who have kept out of their children's lives fairy tales and things like that, because they've thought, I'm not going to tell my children lies. I'm just going to let them, open the world of knowledge up to them and share all of these wonderful things. And the mothers have, their children's best interests at heart, of course, but they just don't understand how vital imagination is to being able to create anything. How did scientists or mathematicians ever come up with the things that they came up with? It was through having an imagination, being able to imagine something different. How do people get through hard times? It's through imagination, being able to think back about stories that you've heard or things that you've imagined, or it's through these fairy tales and wonderful, incredible stories of heroes, and that's where that starts. And we never ever outgrow that. So I love that idea of keeping those in our lives, keeping imagination alive. And I know for me, for a while, it had kind of died. And so I've loved that I've been able to bring that back. How are you keeping that a part of your life right now? And Lindsay Bunting, come on. She always has things to share, and she'll say, I was going to say something, and then I didn't want to take away from anybody else.
I know. I always think, things I have to share, kind of silly. But last night, Ruby and I was tucking her in for bed, and she's like, let's just make up a story. I'm like, oh gosh, so hard. Where do you even start? So she's like, she started it, there was a princess in a castle, and so then she'd be like, hey mom, your turn. And so I'd have to like think of stuff, and then I'd pause and she'd take over. And we did this for like an hour, and it really was humbling, because I thought my imagination definitely needs some work. But it was fun to practice it and to just think of stories off the top of your head and just create something on the spot. It was really fun. And then I keep smiling because we're talking about creating, and that's all Ruby's doing this morning. She's just like, oh, what can I do with this box? What can I do with this toilet paper bowl? She's got the couch in front of me is just laid out with her little creations. So it's been fun.
Love it. That's awesome. Good for you, Ruby. Okay, Sarah. Sarah and your adorable little baby.
Thank you. If you need an activity to get your imagination juices flowing, I have this little set of dice called Rory's Story Cubes, and there are like probably 9 or 10 little dice in there with pictures on each side. So like there's a germ, and there's a mountain, and there's like all these random things, and you have to come up with a story based on those things. And there are all sorts of ways you can play with it, but it's super fun, just like have something to start with, and then you can like it just kind of gets things going. It's really fun.
Oh, so fun. And Melissa McCarty shared there are apps for story dice too. Of course there are. There's an app for everything. I know, I forget that. I'm old, but we have the story dice and they're intimidating to me. My kids think they are the coolest things ever. And if they wanted to pull them out, I was always like, oh, okay. Oh, and it's time for me to go in and start lunch. So you guys go ahead and start with that because it just, it intimidated me. And I wish that I had been braver. I just so wish that I had been. Oh, look at Amy. She's got the galaxy behind her as she drives. Fancy, fancy. I love it. Welcome. It's good to see you.
I have no idea how this background is happening. So sure. Sure. I'm good. Thank you.
It is really good to have you back. Amy does the whole life coach thing and she posts such positive, really encouraging things. It's so nice. She is a source of light and goodness for the women that are in her circles. And I think that is so great. So, so, so good. Daisy just shared her link to her YouTube channel. So you guys, you have to go if you haven't. Chooks and Books. And it's great. I love it. And it is making me think about other things we can do, other ways we can reach out, ways that we can create. So I love this idea of imagination and creating and finding ways that we can share out there and be a light to others around us. How are we doing time-wise? Okay, we're doing okay. Okay, other mamas want to share. Look at Lindsay and everything that she's right in the middle of right now. Cardall. I love it. Hello, Cardalls.
Hi, just trying to keep them busy, but it's keeping me a little bit too busy too.
It's okay. Lindsay's having fun doing crafts. That's good. It is really good to see you guys, though. I love seeing your families. It's very sweet. Hey, beautiful. Look at that heart. That's so beautiful. Look at all the things you guys are doing. I love it. Oh, so cute. Okay. Other topics? Questions? Things that are coming up for you that you wonder about? Don't hesitate because you remember this is such a safe space. I have a friend I'm trying to get to come and join us. She works, but I'm hoping that sometimes she can not be in a meeting, during this time because she's in a meeting right now, and just pop on for a minute to see what this feels like because she comes to our, we have, most of us are involved in different church organizations and maybe we have groups where women meet together. And in those groups, sometimes it feels kind of empty, which is sad because it seems like, oh, thank you. I will. It seems like in those groups, there should be this kind of warmth, this kind of connection, and I think there are just a lot more women than we realize have a hard time making those connections. They don't know quite how to do it. So each one of you, if you have the opportunity to be in a group of women in any other kind of organizations, that meet together at church or anything else, realize that you have tools that you can share with them. You have gifts that you can bring to that group and help them learn how to connect. And I think that's going to be part of our call is to do that. If anybody wants to share any experiences in that area, do that, or any ideas for ways you might be able to do that, or hesitation about that. Yeah, Melanie.
So, sorry, like a month or so ago, one of my close friends shared with me that she feels like one of her gifts is storytelling and that she tries to use that with her kids. And then a couple weeks later, I was reading in the storytelling book and having the calls with you guys. And so I came back to her and said, I have to share all the stuff I learned about storytelling with you. So I shared all this stuff and she came back and said, oh, Melanie, you really inspired me because she had kind of trailed off on telling stories with her kids and used videos to teach certain things that she was wanting to teach them instead. And so she said that she started really doing that a lot more again, and recognizing kind of the power that she has in teaching things through stories as well. So that was fun.
I love
And
that.
actually last night too, I was in a book club with a couple of ladies, and I haven't finished an entire book recently. We all just bring whatever book we've been reading. And but I've been reading the intro to the Catch the Vision series. So I brought that. So I talked to them about what Well-Educated Heart is, and they pulled up the website while we were sitting there, and I showed them the intro course, and they were excited to look at it. So we'll see where
Good.
that takes us.
Good. I love that. That's a great idea to bring that book to a book club meeting and share that with others. That's wonderful. There are so many wonderful things in just that first volume of the introductory course, that reference library. Oh, so many things that will bring just joy to your life. Just us. We know a lot of these things already, but just going over them again is just really helpful. Okay, Sarah.
So I just wanted to, I'm sorry, I'm kind of interrupting the conversation, but I missed the question that spurred this section of the discussion. We're talking about thoughts and reservations about something, and I missed it. Could you repeat that question?
If I could remember it, I would. So can somebody else? This is who your facilitator is. She cannot even remember the question that she asked. So
I'll jump
somebody
in.
else. Thank you.
It was about sharing it. And
Oh, yeah.
so I recently I have like 4 different people in my life that I feel like are put there to share, well, like the Well-Educated Heart with, and it's been slow going. But this last weekend I had a friend borrow the harvester from me because I'm so excited about, something that warmed my heart, and then I was just sharing it. And I actually what it piqued her interest into asking more questions was talking about how important history has been to me since I've started homeschooling, where I didn't love history before. I had no interest, had no desire to know anything. It was facts and it was dates, and it didn't intrigue me at all. It didn't stay in my brain. So I did not love it. But now this way of learning history and knowing the importance of learning the history. And then, so when I shared that, then that piqued her interest. And then she started asking more questions and then ended up borrowing the harvester. So I was excited that I felt like something was finally clicking with all the things that I've shared with her over the time. I have another thought, and it's kind of deep. Again, I feel like I'm sharing big things, and I'm sharing a lot today. I'm sorry. But
no, that's wonderful.
This last Sunday, we had the prophet, President Nelson, address the saints in California. And he went, the whole broadcast was going into the history of California and kind of inspiring as to, all the things that the saints have done in California, and kind of an encouraging message to keep going, let your light shine and continue to be encouraging and uplifting to people in California. At least that's what I got out of it. And it reminded me of when we were back in Nauvoo a few months ago, and we learned that Brigham Young would encourage the dances and the arts and the music to bring, I don't know, imagine it, we were saying, imagination. You can't imagine a beautiful, if you don't have an imagination, you can't imagine the possibility of a bright future. Yeah. And he used the power of dancing and music and arts and poetry to inspire this among the saints when they were going through some of their darkest times. And so I think it's kind of coincidental that in these dark times that we are facing right now, the mothers, us mothers, are being encouraged to bring things back to homes.
Mhm. Yeah, that's no accident. That is definitely coming because it's what we need, what we're going to need. So, and I think that lines up with Marlene Peterson's, podcast 200, the things she shared there. We need to already be gathering. We need to already be familiar with sharing these things with each other. We need to be doing it because we don't know what's going to happen. And because her message is a universal message and a worldwide message, right? If you're living in Ukraine or in Russia right now, isn't that an incredibly powerful message for you to have and to be doing, to have been gathering with people, to have been sharing stories, to have brought all of the beautiful things into your heart and into your family so that you have a wealth of beautiful things that you can look to when you're in a dark moment. There's just so many reasons why these things are important for us to include in our lives. And I don't know about you, but I've had multiple conversations with friends lately who have felt very alone and very discouraged and very downhearted, and whatever, all the words you want to add in there. And there are so many women out there right now who are feeling just defeated. Defeated is a really good word to describe what I've seen and what, in talking with the other mothers of influence leaders, what we're seeing. And a lot of the conversations that you see on the Well Educated Heart page, if you look at people's comments, or on any of your pages, the things that you see people just women feeling overwhelmed and defeated. And you have tools to help them. You have very simple, easy to use things that are right there that you have access to, that you can share with them, that can help lift them. So let's talk just real quickly, because we don't have much time. I just want to know just like in one word things, what are some of the tools you have that you could share with somebody who is feeling down? I mean, you might think that these tools are too simple. It's kind of like Sunday school answers. Could that really be the answer? But yeah, it really could be the answer. So someone want to share a few of those tools that could be used to help somebody who's feeling defeated? Amy?
Well, I was feeling defeated a little bit a couple of weeks ago, about a week or so ago, and I actually reached out to a friend on here, and she had a tool, and her tool really was a smile and a listening ear, and really and truly just her wisdom. Because everybody gives off different, we all learn something the same, but we all give off something different. And I think for me, that was just a smile and a listening ear, and was huge. I mean, it could be something big, sure, but just somebody acknowledging, was
Absolutely.
really,
And that goes to that connection. It was somebody that you had a real connection with, and they were there for you. And that connection made a difference. Thank you, Amy. Sandy, thanks for being here. And we'd love to hear what you have to share.
Yeah. So I have a friend that her husband recently passed away, and she still has little kids at home and things. And friend group, has kind of rallied around her and everything, but kind of opposite. I'm sorry, I didn't catch the lady that just spoke. She said
Amy.
smile. Amy, thank you. But I was thinking tears, because sometimes we need to mourn with those that mourn. And we as women are very empathetic and sympathetic. And I went over to kind of play with her kids a little bit and let her have some time, but she needed my time at that point. She said, no, let me just talk to you. And so we cried together and we talked together. And I don't, I can't relate to her situation, but I could listen, and I just had a prayer in my heart. So that was another one. They were saying prayer, just a prayer in my heart, and speaking God's love for her, that so that she could know that, even though it was hard right now, that God still loved her and wanted the best for her, even though it was hard right now.
I love that, Sandy. Thank you for sharing that. That is something anybody can do. You don't have to know what to say or do. You don't have to be able to understand what it is they're going through. Just being there, crying with a friend. That's so sweet. So, so sweet. Anybody else?
I just had another thought about you, I think said, Lori, we need to be gathering already. We need to be filling our hearts and warming our hearts. And I think that that is so important because like I was thinking about what is it, sweet potato peel society, or what was the name of that book? Do you
Yeah.
guys, about they gathered together, they were occupied, it was an English island that was occupied by the Nazis during the war. And then they would gather and they would share poetry and stories, I guess, read books. It was like a book club. And they were doing that, I think, before, but I don't know for sure. But I was thinking about, like, this morning, I've been trying really hard every day to just fill my cup, warm my heart in different ways, however I can, just taking time every morning to do that. And sometimes it feels like I'm taking all this in, and like I don't know if I can even process it all, but it's like slowly, it's like exercising, right? Like you're going and exercising and you don't see the results immediately. It's not like you can run a marathon the next day, but you're slowly getting stronger and you're slowly, improving your health and all these things that you don't see that are like beneath the surface, right? And that's what it's doing when we're warming our hearts and we're making those connections, that it's like we're building this network, right? We're this infrastructure. And so then when the time comes, when the battles come, you have an army. You have a legions of angels, mothers, and you have all these resources stored in your heart. And you just have these little things like, I think I need to share this with somebody. And you never know the impact that's going to have or what the end result is going to be. But just doing that, and like, you're just building up this fortress, this temple, like Marlene says, right? So that your temple is able to withstand when all these battles are going to come. And they're coming every day, right? All these things that we're dealing with. And we're just shoring up our armor. And anyways, so I just think having these connections now is helping us forever, like whatever comes, we know we're not alone.
Thank you. That is beautiful. And I feel that. I feel the necessity of doing these things, making those connections, gathering, nurturing our hearts, helping other moms nurture their hearts. And I had a thought this morning, and I just wanted to share that I love that having these kinds of friends like this helps you. It gives you opportunities to lift other women and opportunities to be lifted. And I love that second part of that, because there are times when we're going to need that, like Amy shared. We're going to need to be lifted ourselves, and we have a community of friends that we can reach out to and say, I'm really feeling defeated today, or this has been really hard. It's really weighing heavily on my heart. I just need a little time, a little of that connection. And so I'm so grateful that we have each other, and I'm grateful to know that you are each out there and able to to make an impact on other women around you, that you're able to help lift and share the light and hope with others. And I hope that you'll remember when you're needing it, that you reach out so that you can receive what you need too, because we're going to need to continue to fill our cups. And part of that filling happens with the connection. So don't forget, and don't hesitate to reach out when you need that. So with that said, we're going to turn our time over to, yes, sorry, I'm going to read that, Ida. That's so beautiful. You lift me and I lift you, and then we rise together. So that is so, so beautiful. And we're going to turn over to give this to Linnell so that Linnell can share with us. Thanks, Linnell.
I have been a recipient of you ladies lifting me up this week, and I appreciate that so much. I've had a lot more tears this past week. I think one of my deep pains is to see my mom suffering. For anyone who isn't aware of what I'm talking about, sorry. my aunt passed away, and last week in our previous meeting I had shared, and I was in tears, and I was really feeling things deeply, and was very grateful for my group of friends, all of you ladies, plus a whole bunch of new ladies that I didn't know and had never talked to. And it was such a sweet comfort to have you, my core friends, being there to lift me and to comfort and to encourage me. And the love and support and reaching out has continued throughout the week. And I can feel your thoughts and prayers, and I really, really appreciate that. I have a few comments about the conversation that I didn't get to add. And then just to end, I want to reshare the poem I shared last week, because last week I was in tears and I was a mess, but it's really been very meaningful to me as I have received some of the support and the love from each of you. So just random comments from previously. Daisy's channel that she made has been so sweet and heartwarming for my children and for me as well. We've listened to it this past week and we've re-listened to several of them. So if you haven't, Daisy has done a wonderful job. And so I am inspired by Daisy using her gifts and her skills and talents to share light. And that's one way that she's done it. And so it makes me think, what can I do? Just like Lori was saying, how can I use my gifts to help others? Something that's not super overwhelming to me, but in a natural way. And I think, well, Daisy said a little bit that it is kind of scary for her to do the older books, but she's doing it, and that's inspiring. I wanted to share something about imagination. My kids and I read from the story Bible this past week, and we read the story about the widow who she was running out of food. She had nothing left. And the prophet comes and tells her, go gather all of the pots in all the town and bring them. And then he tells her to close the door and take the oil from your one pot and pour it in all the pots. And she did, and all the pots became filled, and then he told her to go and sell the oil for money. I forgot to mention that she was a widow, and she had this last thing left, and so like she has no money left, right? And so it was an amazing solution. But what I realized was that if my kids don't have an imagination, there's no way they're gonna be able to fathom this story. And so I think a really important part of imagination is just help our children to grow their faith. If I tell my children, God will bless you if you do this, they're like, how is that possible? There's no way that can happen. And you need to have some type of imagining the impossible to act on a promise that you're given. And so I was inspired by this woman's faith, and I think that faith had to have come from a little bit of imagination. Like, if I go get all these pots and then just take one pot of oil and be able to fill all these pots, are you sure? And so that was pretty neat to be able to teach that aspect to my children. And then Ida, with her starting her own group, I am inspired by that as well. And Lori has mentioned a little bit about their efforts to share Mothers of Influence with other countries, specifically Brazil and Spanish-speaking countries, I believe. And she thought of me because I'm a Spanish speaker in helping to translate. And my initial reaction was like, no ways, I can't do that. I'm not capable. I don't know how to translate the words, and I'm uncomfortable with that, and I'm not your girl. And so then we're talking about Joan of Arc, and we're talking about how we can give a little. And I don't know how many of you are Spanish speakers, but in our little group, I might be the only one. And so I have a gift that maybe some of you haven't developed yet. And so I can do it. But what's stopping me? I don't know. And so to see Ida put herself out there and do something scary and then have this is inspiring to me. And I think, well, maybe I can. Maybe I just need to be brave like Ida, and maybe I can do it. And so a neat follow-up to that is that I've been assigned a group of 3 sisters to minister to, and they are blood sisters. And so I had this thought, what if I just invite them over and essentially do a Mothers of Influence group with them? I'm not going to call it that. I'm not going to invite them to learn about Well-Educated Heart, but I'm going to apply everything that I know and love and enjoy and learning, and all the ways that I'm inspired to foster connection with these ladies. And when I realized that, I was like, okay, it's not that hard. I can do Mothers of Influence. I can invite some friends and paint with them. I can read a poem. I can ask them to share their favorite story. And so in that way, without making it too complicated and without putting like names to what we're doing, I can have a Mothers of Influence group. And so I think it's very divine in the timing, and these sisters already know each other. And so it would be very easy to just kind of slip right in and, hey, come on, let's hang out and let's warm our hearts together. I think that's all I had to share, but I just wanted to finish with that poem again, because it's such a sweet poem, and it's in this book, Poetry for the Well-Educated Heart, on page 53, and it's called A Spring Song. Old Mother Earth woke up from her sleep and found she was cold and bare. The winter was over, the spring was near, and she had not a dress to wear. Alas, she sighed with great dismay, oh, where shall I get my clothes? There's not a place to buy a suit, and a dressmaker no one knows. I'll make you a dress, said the springing grass, just looking above the ground. A dress of green of the loveliest sheen to cover you all around. And we, said the dandelions gay, will dot it with yellow bright. I'll make the fringe, said forget-me-not, of blue, very soft and light. We'll embroider the front, said the violets, with a lovely purple hue. And we, said the roses, will make you a crown of red, jeweled over with dew. And we'll be your gems, said a voice from the shade, where the ladies' eardrops live. Orange is the color for any queen, and the best we have to give. Oh, old Mother Earth was thankful and glad as she put on her dress so gay. And that is the reason, my little ones, she is looking so lovely today. And I am so thankful to each of you for being part of my dress, for helping me and lifting me. And no one has to be the same. Like, I don't want all roses in my dress. I don't want all violets either. I think it's beautiful to have the variety and to have what each person can offer, and to use the strengths and gifts from everyone. And so the sweet thing about our group is that we can take what we get from each other and then go out and share our roses and our violets and our whatever you are to everyone. And I don't think you have to be the same flower each day. I think you can be a different kind of flower. You can offer different things, and you can understand what other people need. But one word that stood out to me right now as I'm reading this is dew. Because if you think about dew, what's dew? It's gentle, it's light, it's soft, it's daily, it nourishes. And I think that's what Well-Educated Heart has done for me. It's been this dew on my heart, this ever so present, gentle, soft, gradual type of warming of my heart. And when I think of that, I think of the need for having it daily. I think of the need for something gentle and ever present and light and soft. And so I thank you all for being part of my lovely dress. And I hope you all can go and share your flowers and your greens and your beautiful scents and everything with those around you.
Thank you so much. I love when you share, Linnell. And I love that you shared that poem again. That was beautiful. I love all those thoughts. I was taking notes. I take notes a little bit of all the different things that you all share, because it's just so beautiful. So thank you. So let's all go out and share our flowers and be that influence of light and goodness and hope to others around us. And then remember to come back and reach out if we need some help, if we need to be picked up off the ground occasionally, because that's definitely going to happen. So anyway, it's been lovely. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being a part of my life. It makes it so much better. So have a beautiful weekend and a wonderful week.